Hi guys, welcome to the channel. So today we are going to be doing diff locks on the FTX Banzai. Pretty much the same procedure if you were going to do like on the FTX Outlaw as well. Obviously how you get to the diff and everything will be slightly different, but the diff itself is the same. Tools, ugga dugga, if you want to get the job done easy. Few different tools. All you really need is a small hex, which I think is a 1.5 or 2 mil, and then pretty much a little screwdriver just to be able to get the diff screws out. Coffee may be essential depending on your flavour. And then you need your diff locks, which hopefully you can see there. So I've got 2 of those, so I can lock the front and the rear diff. So then hopefully we'll turn our little 4-wheel drift car into a better 4-wheel drive drift car. So basically what you're going to do is we're going to be undoing for the rear. We'll start with the rear first. We're going to undo this bolt here and this bolt here to loosen off the top plate. We'll also need to do this one and this one to loosen off the top plate. That's also the 2 screws for the motor mount as well. So basically loosen off those 4, and then underneath we've got 4 more screws. So you know what's what. Some of the screws are different lengths, so as you put it back together, obviously you want to make sure you get the right screws. And undo these 2 screws as well. And then this one. Okay, so that's the 4 screws undone for the top plate. So you can see the top plate is now loose. Good piece to put stick on it. Okay, this will make things a bit quicker. Okay, so now you can see this is completely loose. So basically all we need to do is just lift it so we can get the spur gear out, and then just slide that up and over there, and then it's away. And then what you'll also see, you don't lose it, is this little piece here which sits on top of the motor mount. Just be aware when you put that back in that it needs to go back on the bearing, so don't lose that. So pop that over there. Okay, so now we got that separated, we'll put that out of the way. And now we got the rear off the car, nice and quick and easy. There you can see the diff inside, nice and peanut buttery. Num num, don't eat it, it's not peanut butter. Okay, so what we're going to do now, what we're going to do is we're going to unbolt this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws holding the suspension plate onto the diff. So I'll just loosen them off a minute. Saves you so much time doing this. If you use a power tool, impact driver, don't use it to do them up, just use it to undo them. So now that should be loose up there. You can see that now comes away. When you undo the arms, so then these can flop, and then we'll be able to get the dog bones out, and then we'll be able to get to the diff. So your screws for the arms are longer than most of the other screws. A lot of the screws are very similar sizes on these ones. Allen key bolts, whatever you want to call them. But these ones for the arms are longer, so keep those ones separate. Okay, so now we should be able to get our dog bones out. Okay, so nice little dinky dog bones. Away to the side, and then the last thing we want to do is we're going to need to undo, if my camera will focus, maybe if you're lucky. Well, what you want is there's 2 screws here on the bottom mount, and then also 3 screws, which hopefully you'll be able to see. There we go. 2 long ones and 1 short one. If we take those off, then we can get these suspension arm holders off, and the diff will be completely free. So we shall get those off. Get that on there. And see how long those screws are. Beasts. And that's a nice little short one. Ooh, there you go. Okay, do the same for the other side. Hopefully we can get to it nice and easy. Okay, now with all those undone, you should be able to just slide the diff out. You can see all of that is now just free. It's just these pins in here for the arms, but if you just gently put it down, it pretty much stays together, and then you have your diff. We've got our diff out. Okay, so now what we're going to do to get the diff apart, we've just got these 2 screws here. There's one here and one here. We get those undone and the diff will come apart. Okay, so before we take it apart, we are going to get a piece of paper towel, stick it on. Right, now one thing you need to remember to do is, just put you back a little bit, make a note of which way the diff is facing, because otherwise if you put it back in the wrong way, you'll be going in reverse when you're trying to go forward. And obviously if your diffs are going 2 opposite directions in your 4-wheel drive, it's not going to go anywhere. So basically, take it apart, and as you take it apart, just be aware of which way it's facing. So here we can see the spur gears at the front, and if we take it apart, the larger plate diff is facing the camera. Yeah. So basically, if you think of it as a real car, it'd be on the passenger side. So spur gear at the front, diff, wheel, gear, whatever you want to call it, passenger side. Okay. So take it out. So you've got inside your diff, as you can see, lots of rather gross looking lame FTX peanut butter jelly. And then we've got our diff, which looks like that. Okay, which again has some nice peanut butter jelly. So what we're going to do is we are going to get a little screwdriver. I'm just going to keep that note of which way it went like this, and then we're going to pop our bearings off. Okay, so that one's coming off, and what you'll note is as well is that when it comes off, there are these spacers. Okay, you've got to make sure you put the right spacers back on the right way. So on what we're calling the driver's side, there are 4 spacers. Okay, so 4 little spacers on what we're calling the driver's side. Okay, so put those with that bearing. No, there's no one to come off. Okay, we'll take it off when we unscrew it because it'll slide off. It's just been stubborn. Okay, so what you see at the moment as well is the, turn it around, the cups which the dog bones go into. Okay, they are solid because they've got little C-clips inside them to hold them in, but once you put the diff locker in, you get rid of the C-clips, so effectively these cups will be loose. Now realistically, if you don't have that much suspension trouble, your dog bones aren't going to go so far that they'll pop out, and these will always be pushed in. Personally, what I do, whether it's right or wrong or not, is I just super glue these cups inside, because if I take it apart then it's going in the bin and just getting a new one, to be honest. So just super glue the cups into the diff, and then you've got no worry of them just falling out then. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our little screwdriver, which is this lovely little jobby here, and we're going to undo. That's good, isn't it? brand new car. It's already missing a screw. It's good, lightweight. This fits, which is a 1.5mm hex. Okay, undo that. So normally you'd have 4 screws, but on my lightweight version I've only got 3, and that's the way it came from the factory. So they're also just trying to save me some weight. Got TBS, and then the last one. I'll bring out the big guns. You will come out. Told you. We have ways and means of making it talk. Okay, so what I'm going to do as well, before we get completely covered in peanut butter, I'm just going to tidy up this diff. Let's give it a wipe down, so we're going to replace all this grease, because this peanut butter stuff is just rubbish. There we go, nice and shiny now, no more grease. Okay, so plug out of that. Okay, so now we've got that off. Now we can just pull it apart. It comes apart like that, and you can see the gears inside the diff. Focus, amazing camera. Or maybe not. Yeah, so anyway, so that's it. I'll give that a clean up as well. And then what you'll see is there's this little C-clip. So if we get our screwdriver, then we're going to want to pop that little C-clip out. So there's a little recess. You can just get your screwdriver in, and then you might be able to see the little C-clip. Maybe, if you're lucky. Yeah. You're actually going to do away with those. And then once you've taken that out, you'll be able to slide your cap out. That we're going to do away with. Now our cap's come off, we should be able to get our bearing. Normally that would come off and you'd be able to replace your bearings. Mine is stuck on there, and to be honest, it's go back on in 5 seconds, so it can just stay on there for now. You also have these little O-rings, you can see there. Oh, little O-ring. So basically, yeah, they're just to try and help seat the cups and seal it. So you have one on the inside, one on the outside. Okay. On the inside, on the outside. Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll do the same thing over here. We're going to just pop these gears out. We don't want them anymore. Okay, and then yeah, we've got a nice little washer on the end of those as well. Interesting. Okay, get our gunk out. Our lovely jubbly grease. Scrape all that out. Like so. So it's getting cleaned up. Okay, and then we can do the same thing again. There's another little C-clip in here, so we're just going to pop that off as well. Pull that out. Oh, there we go, that's that out. And then again, you can take this cap out. Okay. And then again, you've got your gear, which you don't need anymore. Which is that little thing there. So teeny. Okay, so you now have no more, whatever you want to call them, differential gears inside your diff. So your diff is completely open. It's like the open of the open diff. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get our diff locker. Which looks something like that. Okay, and then basically what you're going to do is you're just going to drop that into your diff. It only goes in one way, so you can't get it wrong. Goes in like that. Okay, so it's in your diff, and then what you're going to do, make sure you haven't lost the O-ring from the inside before you put it back in. Now if you're not sure, just give it a tap and just pull it back out. Still got my O-ring in there, if you can see that little red thing in the middle. Pop that back in there. Okay, and then so this side, our cup is going to go back in here. What I'm going to do first of all, again, the cup will only seat in one way, because obviously you can see that is at a certain angle, so it won't go in that way, it'll only go in that way. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my super glue, and I'm just going to super glue that in, because I am ghetto engineering. So let me just get my super glue. And of course, you know, only the best super glue from Lidl, because you know, why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the cup, and I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of super glue on the cup. And just a little bit. Okay, and then if you super glue anything like mine, it dries really fast, so you want to get that in there as quick as you can. Okay, so that's that one side in. Okay, so we'll just leave that to dry for a second, and then what we will do is do the other side. So first of all, we're going to want to put this little O-ring back in this side of the diff. Okay, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to screw this back together. Okay, so just find your holes. Okay, which is there. We're going to get little screws. Okay, I'm not a professional, as you can tell. Okay, one in. The next one, obviously we only have 3, but I would hope that you would have 4. You never know, maybe you'd be special like me. And last one. I'm going to do those up. Don't go too crazy tight because it's just going into plastic and it will just... Okay, welcome back. The camera might have cut out for some random reason, but basically what we've done is we've put the diff locker inside the diff, we've removed the gears, these little puppies. Remove the gears. I've cleaned up the original grease a bit, glued the cups in, screwed it back together, so now we have a working solid diff again, which is completely locked. Okay, we're going to put our washers back on. If we can pick them all up without dropping them. Slide them back on over the cup, like so. And then get your bearing, slide that on over as well. Okay, so then you've got your bearings both sides, which should rotate freely. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to get our marine grease, which I just use this silver hook white grease, and I'm just going to put a bit of grease over the teeth of the gear, whatever you call it. Like I said, I'm no professional, just wing it. Best way to do it sometimes, you know. Just wing it. I'm sure it's going to be better than the grease that was in there before. Okay, so now you've got your grease on there. What you're going to do is remember, like we said, the diff goes back together like so. And remember, we were saying the diff was facing forward and the larger side of the gear was on the passenger side. So we're going to get our diff, we're going to slide that in there, like so. It should rotate. Once it's in, you turn that, there you go, that. Like a glove. If the light wasn't so rubbish in here, you'd be able to see. Okay, and then what I normally do as well is just get a bit more grease and just squeeze more in there, just to give it a bit more lube. And just rotate it a bit, just to get it nicely lubed up. Okay, it's nice and lubed. Okay, so now it's in, it's seated. Now we're going to get the back of our diff. I'm going to put that on over the top, push it back together. Okay, so that back together. And then we'll get our two screws that we had, which were these two slightly longer ones. And we'll pop those in there, like so. And then we'll do them up. Okay. Now you don't want to over tighten these, because one thing I have noticed, if you do them overly tight, it pulls on the diff and it makes it kind of bind. So you just want to do them so they're, you know, snug enough without going crazy, and then just check that it's just nice and free still, rotating. And here we can see they are both moving in sync. Oh, if you can see, you probably can't because my camera is so cool. Oh, there we go. Working diff. Oh no. Lock diff, yo. Cool. Right. So now we're basically just going to do reverse of what you did to take it apart. Basically slot it back in, put the center drive shaft into the little notches, put it back in, line it up, screw it in, yada yada yada. So we'll crack on and do that now, and I'll show you some bits as we go through, but I won't bore you with all the details because it's basically the reverse of what you just did. Okay, so what you want to do is get this and stick it back in here first. back in your bottom suspension holders, remembering that your 2 screws are at the front. Yes, because you've got the 2 little seats in the side to the front, and you've got your suspension sits at the back. Okay, so this is going to go in like so. Like that. And what I would do is just put some of the screws in and then get your cups in there. So get these 2 short screws first. Just so you know, if you've got a nice wonky donkey screwdriver like I have, Okay, so what I would recommend doing is doing these screws, this thing. Put that on first, tighten it up. Get all those in there. Tighten those up. And then what you can do then is put your dog bones in, and then put your arms back on. And it will make it much easier to get your dog bones in and all held on, otherwise it's a bit fiddly. Again, don't over tighten these because obviously it's just going into plastic. You don't want it to strip anything or ruin it. That'll do. Okay, so now we've got those. That's all in. All in the bottom of the gin. We can get our little teeny tiny dog bones. We'll get our, stick it in the wheel cup. And then, right, and then once you've got it in the wheel and the diff, pop your suspension mount back on with your longer screw. Okay, and then do the same the other side. Pop it in, hold it up slightly, and then get your wheel, pop it on. So you're done. Second time was easy, wasn't it? Get your screw, chuck it in. Get some decent light in here, be a difference, won't it? Okay, so now that's all screwed back in. So those are tightened up, your bottom suspension mounts, you know, your pin holders. Got your pins in there, working suspension again, and everything's all back together. And all good and hurt. So now what we need to do is put it back in. Now can be a bit of a pain in the bottom to get back onto the drive shaft, but as I'm going to do the front in a minute, I'm not even going to bother trying to put it on the drive shaft in a minute. I'm just actually going to take the drive shaft out and I will deal with that when we come to it. So all I'm going to do is just get it, slide it in, pop it on there. Don't forget that piece for the sits on top of the bearing. So what I normally do is, it can be a bit fiddly to get it on there. Basically you want to pop it in. Okay, and then once you've got that back on, then you can put all your screws back in. So what I would do is I do 2 top screws first, and then do bottom screws. So start with your motor mount. Don't bother doing them all completely tight yet. And then pop it over, don't let it fall. Make sure it's lined up with the 2 pins here and the little recesses here. And then get your screws. Screw those in. Lefty.